Perhaps many of us know Dominique through her role as Dana Freeling, the eldest sister in the classic 1982 horror film, Poltergeist. A role that catapulted the young girl's name to fame, promising a brilliant future ahead. But there was a secret, a terror that Dominique tried to hide, a truth more frightening than any supernatural force on screen. And that secret, ultimately, claimed her life when she was only 22. Dominique Ellen Dunne, born November 23, 1959, in Santa Monica, California, was not an unfamiliar name in the entertainment industry. She was the youngest daughter of Ellen Lenny Griffin, a wealthy ranching heiress, and Dominique Dunne, a well-known writer, film producer, and actor. Although her parents divorced when she was young, Dominique maintained an incredibly close relationship with both of them. Her family had extensive ties to the industry, so it was no surprise that Dominique developed an early passion for acting. Just weeks after moving to Hollywood, Dominique landed her first role in the television film Diary of a Teenage Hitchhiker, 1979. Her career quickly blossomed, supporting roles in popular 80s series like Fame, Family, Heart to Heart, and a recurring role in Breaking Away showcased her diverse talent. And then, in 1981, Hollywood's doors truly opened for Dominique when she was cast as Dana Freeling in Poltergeist. The film, produced by the legendary Steven Spielberg, became a box office phenomenon, grossing over $70 million. Dominique, with her innocent beauty and natural acting, left a deep impression on audiences. Spielberg once said of her, "Dominique was a treasure of natural ability. Everything seemed to be rolling out the red carpet for the young actress. Work poured in, attractive offers. But it was also during this brilliant period that a dark shadow began to creep into her life." In 1981, at a private party, Dominique met John Thomas Sweeney, a sous chef 7 years her senior, working at Ma Maison, one of Los Angeles's most luxurious and exclusive restaurants frequented by Hollywood stars. Sweeney, with his experienced demeanor and stable career, seemed an attractive figure. His background was the complete opposite of Dominique's. His father was an unemployed alcoholic who frequently abused his mother. His mother had to work as a waitress to struggle to support the family. Sweeney saw his culinary career as a ticket out of his impoverished past in Pennsylvania. Just weeks after meeting, Dominique and Sweeney moved in together into a one-bedroom apartment in West Hollywood. Love at first sight, a seemingly dreamlike beginning. But reality was far harsher. The relationship quickly turned toxic. Sweeney revealed a pathologically jealous and controlling nature. He forbade Dominique from seeing friends, constantly pressuring her to give up her burgeoning career, fearing she would meet new people. Arguments and physical altercations became increasingly frequent. And then, physical violence began. There's a little-known fact, a chilling detail. When Dominique appeared in an episode of the series Hill Street Blues, playing a young mother who was a victim of domestic violence, the makeup team didn't need to do much. The cuts, the bruises on her face, were real. They were the marks from Sweeney's beatings in the days prior. The Dunne family, though polite and welcoming to Sweeney, all felt uneasy in his presence. They clearly saw that Sweeney was far more obsessed with the relationship than Dominique was. Her mother, Ellen, later recalled the first moment she realized her daughter was in grave danger. "She came to my house one night sobbing. She said, 'Oh, Mom, Sweeney has such a terrible temper. He smashes furniture and throws dishes.' I said, 'Dominique, that's frightening.' I'll never forget her answer. She said, 'Oh, he'd never hurt me.' An innocent reassurance, a misplaced trust. In August 1982, according to a source, Sweeney grabbed Dominique's hair, pulling so hard that clumps were torn from her scalp. Terrified, Dominique ran to her mother's house, where Ellen found her daughter curled up on the floor in a fetal position, clutching her head. Sweeney followed, banging on doors and windows, demanding they let him in. And yet, a few days later, Dominique returned to the home she shared with Sweeney. the cycle of violence and forgiveness continued. On September 26, 1982, tragedy almost struck sooner. During another argument, Sweeney grabbed Dominique by the throat, threw her to the floor, and began to strangle her. A friend staying with the couple heard loud, gagging, choking sounds. He rushed into the room and witnessed the horrifying scene. Sweeney denied everything, told Dominique to come back to bed, trying to pass it off as a big misunderstanding. That night, Dominique had to sneak out through the bedroom window and flee in her car. Sweeney heard the engine, frantically chased after her, even jumping on the car's hood. She had to turn off the engine and wait for him to get off before speeding away into the night. After that terrifying incident, Dominique stayed at a friend's house for a few days, with her mother by her side. Finally, she called Sweeney and officially ended the relationship. Sweeney moved out, and Dominique changed all the locks before returning to the house. It seemed the nightmare was over. But true tragedy was just over a month away. The fateful night of October 30th, 1982. Dominique was at home, rehearsing lines for her new project, the miniseries V with actor David Packer. She was on the phone with a friend when she suddenly realized the call had been interrupted. Sweeney had gotten the operator to break into the conversation to eavesdrop. Dominique told her friend, "Oh God, it's Sweeney. Let me get him off the phone." Around 9 p.m., there was a violent banging on the door. Sweeney, after drinking martinis at the Ma Maison bar, had walked to Dominique's house. He insisted he wouldn't leave unless Dominique came out to talk to him. To avoid a scene, Dominique agreed to speak with him through the locked door. A few minutes later, she decided to go out onto the porch to talk to him directly. David Packer remained inside. Not long after, an argument erupted. Packer recalled hearing slapping sounds, followed by 2 piercing screams, then a heavy thud. He immediately called the police, but his call was misdirected to another area. They told him Dominique's house was outside their jurisdiction. Desperate, Packer called a friend, warning him that if anything happened to him, John Sweeney would be the killer. Then, Packer slipped out the back door and headed for the driveway. And that's where he saw the horrifying sight. Sweeney kneeling beside Dominique, who lay motionless among the bushes. Sweeney told Packer to call the police. This time, the call connected properly. When the police arrived, Sweeney put his hands in the air and said, "I killed my girlfriend, and I tried to kill myself." Dominique was unconscious and taken to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. She fell into a deep coma. Scans showed her brain had no activity due to severe oxygen deprivation. When her father, Dominic, was allowed to see her, he faced an utterly agonizing sight. Dominique's eyes were wide open, her head shaved, a screw inserted into her skull to relieve pressure. The marks from the strangulation were still visible on his daughter's neck. Sweeney told the police he remembered arguing with Dominique, but couldn't recall what happened that led him to attack her. He only remembered that after the verbal argument, he found himself on top of her, his hands around her neck. He said he just exploded and lunged at her. 5 days later, on November 4th, 1982, Dominique's parents made the most painful decision of their lives, to consent to her being taken off life support. Dominique Dunne passed away just weeks before her 23rd birthday. At her mother's request, Dominique's kidneys and heart were donated, saving other lives. A final selfless act from a beautiful soul. Sweeney was initially charged with attempted murder. After Dominique's death, the charge was upgraded to first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty. John Sweeney's trial began in August 1983, presided over by Judge Burton S. Katz. Little did anyone know, this trial would go down in American judicial history as one of the most controversial and outrageous cases. Sweeney, whom Patrick Terrell, the owner of Ma Maison, had promised to get the best lawyer for, ended up being defended by Michael Adelson, a court-appointed criminal defense attorney known for his controversial tactics. In court, Sweeney painted a completely different picture. He claimed that on that fateful day, he went to Dominique's house. They had reconciled and planned to start over. He said they had planned to move back in together and had even discussed marriage and children. According to Sweeney, Dominique had abruptly changed her mind, lied to him, and led him on. That's when he exploded and attacked her. He still insisted he had no recollection of strangling her, only stopping when he realized she was no longer breathing. He also claimed to have attempted CPR and even to have taken 2 bottles of pills to commit suicide. Police denied there was any evidence of this. Lawyer Adelson argued that Sweeney's actions were not premeditated but a crime of passion, provoked by Dominique's lies about reconciliation. The Dunne family vehemently denied these claims. A letter Dominique wrote to Sweeney was read in court. "This whole thing has made me realize how scared I am of you, and I don't just mean physically. I'm afraid of the next time you're going to have another mood swing." Prosecutors and police quickly dismissed the crime of passion defense. The medical examiner determined Dominique had been strangled for at least 3 minutes. 3 minutes, long enough for a person to regain control and stop. But Sweeney didn't stop. One of Judge Katz's most controversial decisions was refusing to allow the testimony of Lillian Pierce, Sweeney's ex-girlfriend, to be presented to the jury. At Adelson's request, Judge Katz ruled Pierce's testimony prejudicial. The jury never learned that Lillian Pierce had dated Sweeney for about 3 years and had been assaulted by him 10 times. She had been hospitalized twice for severe injuries, including a perforated eardrum, a collapsed lung, and a broken nose. While Pierce was testifying, without the jury present, Sweeney became so agitated that he jumped out of his seat, rushed towards the door to the judge's chambers, and had to be subdued by 2 bailiffs and 4 armed guards, then handcuffed to his chair. He tearfully apologized, and Judge Katz accepted, saying, "We know what a strain you are under, Mr. Sweeney." While Sweeney frequently wept, causing the trial to be paused, the Dunne family was ordered by Judge Katz to show no emotion. If any member of the Dunne family cries, shouts, rolls their eyes, or expresses emotion in any way, they will be asked to leave the courtroom. Testimony from Dominique's friends and her mother about Sweeney's abuse was also dismissed by Judge Katz as hearsay. Shock after shock. Adelson requested that Judge Katz rule that the evidence was insufficient to prove first-degree murder as there was no proof of premeditation. Judge Katz granted this, instructing jurors they could only consider charges of manslaughter or second-degree murder. On September 21, 1983, after 8 days of deliberation, the jury found John Sweeney guilty of voluntary manslaughter, a much lesser charge. When Judge Katz told the jury they could leave as justice had been served, Dominique's father, Dominique Dunne, shouted, "Not for our family!" The media erupted. Judge Katz faced immense criticism. A poll by a local Los Angeles television station even ranked him 4th on the list of the worst judges in Los Angeles County. That November, Sweeney was sentenced to 6 years in prison, the maximum penalty for voluntary manslaughter. He would only serve 3.5 years. At the sentencing, in a shocking turn of events, Judge Katz himself criticized the jury's verdict, stating he disagreed with it. Katz said, "I feel Dominique's death was a case of murder, pure and simple, murder with malice. I am convinced that John Sweeney did not kill Dominique Dunne in the heat of passion, but rather that he killed her because his ego could not stand rejection." The jury foreman, Paul Spiegel, later told the media that he and other jurors were shocked by Katz's criticism, calling it a cheap shot. Spiegel believed this criticism stemmed from the public backlash Katz himself had received. More importantly, Spiegel asserted, if the jury had heard all the evidence, we would have convicted John Sweeney of murder. After his release from prison in 1987, Sweeney returned to working as a chef at an upscale restaurant in Santa Monica. The Dunne family did not let it rest. They handed out flyers in front of the restaurant with the words, "The food you eat tonight was cooked by the hands that killed Dominique Dunne." Faced with relentless protest, Sweeney had to quit his job and leave Los Angeles. In the mid-90s, the Dunne family heard news of Sweeney again. A doctor in Florida, after reading Dominique's article, contacted him because his daughter was about to marry a chef named John Sweeney. It was him. Dominique's brother, Griffin Dunne, contacted the woman, trying to persuade her to break off the engagement. Sweeney disappeared again, changing his name to John Mora. Dominique Dunne publicly admitted to hiring people to follow Sweeney. He said the injustice of the sentence had driven him almost crazy. He spoke of a female juror, then in her 80s, who wrote to him expressing her remorse, saying the verdict haunted her and she needed to clear her conscience before she died. In later years, Dominique Dunne said he didn't want to waste his life filled with anger, didn't want to spend every waking moment keeping tabs on Sweeney anymore. The last publicly known information about John Mora, Sweeney, is that he was living in San Rafael, California, working as a director of food services for a retirement community. Dominique Dunne, a talented, radiant, warm-hearted 22-year-old girl. Her life had just begun, with so much unfinished, so many achievements yet to be reached. Her story is a painful reminder of the dangers of domestic violence, the flaws in the justice system, and the power of family love in the fragile fight for justice. Don't forget to like, share this video if you found it meaningful, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories. See you again.